it up.
All right. Chair Gary Delvaux.
Here.
Vice Chair Matt Schuler.
Here.
Alderperson Barbara Dorff.
Here.
Jim Blumrick has to be excused. Kathy Hinkfist.
Here.
And Melanie Parma.
Here.
All right, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Kathy and Barb, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Before we get into the very first item, I just want to make a quick little comment. I guess person number one, we want to congratulate Will Kress, Brian, and his team for putting together a terrific project. When the project is completed, it'll be the largest private development in Green Bay, probably Northeast Wisconsin history, so we want to congratulate you guys on doing that. We also want to congratulate Mayor Schmidt, Kevin, Vanessa, and the entire team for putting together a proposal that made Green Bay the #1 option. This project will have terrific long-range effect on the city of Green Bay. Great job, guys. All right, with that in mind, we're anxious to get into a little more details. So, the first regular business, consideration with possible action on development agreement with Green Bay Packaging for a project at 1500 North Quincy Street, 1600 Leo Frigo Way, 900 Radisson Street, 733 YZ Street, 1802 Webster Street, Webster Court, 1700 Webster Court, 1800 Webster Court, 831 Radisson Street, 1910 North Quincy, and North Quincy Street parcels 20-308, 20-452-1, 20-464, 20-494, 20-619, 20-650, 20-665, 20-678, 20-682, and 20-684-8. Kevin.
All right. Thanks for getting the legal work out of the
Yeah.
way. Going forward, I think I've got something else. All right. So the word is out on Green Bay Packaging. Like I said, we are extremely delighted that we were able to work with their team and come up with a plan to help not only keep them in Green Bay, but help them reinvest in the city, in their company, and really in the community. We have an amazing project here today. Again, I mean, $500+ million project to reinvest in this facility. Creating something that hasn't been done in 30+ years. Upgrades in terms of environmental, efficiency, and all those types of things, and really, cementing our place, continuing that manufacturing tradition, especially when it comes to these types of products in the community. So with that, what you have before you today is a development agreement that looks at formalizing these terms in terms of making this work. This is a package that has been put together through some work not only with the company, but with our partners at the state and then the county, water, really making sure all these pieces work in sync to make this deal happen. Through some months of coordination and negotiations, I think we reached a deal and a package, that is fair for the company and really fair for the city, and continues to make sure that we remain elevated in terms of our paper manufacturing presence. With that, I really can't do justice in terms of describing the project. So with that, I don't know if you care to open the floor. We have Brian Hollenbeck, who's the Executive Vice President of Green Bay Packaging, who could say a few words just exactly what this means for the company. And if you have any questions for him. I also know the mayor would like to say a few words just what this means to the community, and then we can dive into some of the details about the agreement.
Motion to open the floor.
A motion.
Second.
Barb and Matt, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. It's open. Brian, please.
You'd like me to stand up?
Yes,
Is that
please.
okay?
Yes, please.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to come here and tell you a little bit about the story. I think what I'll do is I'll talk to you a little bit about the process, how we got to this point, and then what the project's all about, if that's okay.
Excellent.
So, for those of you who were at the announcement, was that earlier this week? This week's gone pretty quick. I'll probably touch on some of those same points, but you all know Green Bay Packaging. We've been around over 85 years, actually even longer than that, but officially we call it 85 years. Started by George Kress, of course. We've always really believed in the area. We've had a mill now in place. The Green Bay Mill was built in the 40s. It's actually 71 years old. And over the last couple of years, we've been taking a hard look at it on what do we need to do for our future. And really in the last 6 months, myself, Matt Szymanski, who some of you may know, he's our Vice President of Mill Operations, reports up through me, and then a larger team really looked at what do we need to do. The mill's 71 years old. We've invested a lot in the asset over the years, but it's really come to the end of its useful life. So we had to make a decision. So we looked at a lot of different options, frankly. Some folks don't like to hear it, but it's a big part of my job. I have to look at what we need to do to make this company economically viable for the long term. First option we looked at, should we shut down the mill? And frankly, shut it down and just go into buying paper. And in our industry, that's a very doable option. You can buy paper right now out in the open market at a pretty good price. Of course, what's that mean? Unfortunately, it would mean less employees. The mill would be shut down. But it is one option we truly took a look at. The other option we looked at is, should we build a new mill? And if we should, where would it be? And when you look at a map, from a geography point of view, where it should be is either Iowa, Indiana, or Missouri. And I mentioned this to Dylan the other day, but after we made the announcement, one of the analysts who look at our industry came out and they did the analysis of it, a very high level analysis, but one of their sentences they put in there is, we're not quite sure, something like, we're not quite sure why they put it in this location, because from a geography point of view, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but they seem to like Green Bay, and it was kind of an interesting comment. But we took a hard look at that, frankly. But then we also, when we looked at some other drastic measures, when you're going to spend this type of money, we got to look at a lot of different things. But then what we ended up doing is we met with Will Kress, our President and CEO, who I report to, as well as the Board of Directors, and we devised a plan to build a brand new paper mill right at the site of our current operation. And the Board of Directors and Will Kress said, if we can make this economically viable, let's do it. So what that means is it's a $500 million investment, right on the same location that the current mill is in. But it's really important to know that this is a whole mill, a brand new mill. Some folks are saying, well, it's an expansion or it's an investment. No, it's it's a new mill. It just happens to be at the same site. That's really important. That's what drives that cost up. But the also important part of that, what we're doing here is a state-of-the-art operation. I mean, this is an operation that should last 50 plus years, and it really does cement Green Bay Packaging's legacy, into the area. So after we got the kind of the direction from the board and Will, we started meeting. We had a big presentation. I believe it was in January, February. You may know, Dylan. Like I said, the time flies. But we met with the state. We met with Mayor Smith. We met with Troy from Brown County, and a number of other folks at DNR, and we talked about this concept. And in that presentation, we talked about we need some help, frankly. And luckily, we got a pretty good group of people to work with. I can't say enough about working with Kevin and Mayor Smith on this project, because we had some give and take and we had some negotiation, but it's been very open-minded and very thought-provoking on how can we make this happen in Green Bay. So we're committed to investing $500 million in this area at this site, as you can see the rendering here. We have 1,100 employees in Brown County, over 1,500 in the state of Wisconsin, over 3,600 around the country. And we committed to the state and to the area that we are going to retain all of those jobs in the state and all of those jobs in Brown County. Why is that important? Well, it's important for a lot of reasons, but if we would have went with one of the other alternatives, a lot of those jobs would have left the state. Like we calculated, over 600 of jobs would have left the state. We also committed to hiring another 200 jobs throughout the state of Wisconsin. Many of them wind up being in Brown County, but it is committed throughout the state. We'd like to move forward with this very quickly, because once it's announced, we need to move, frankly. The lead time on a new paper machine is roughly 24 months. We're right now in the middle of negotiations with 2 potential paper suppliers. And in fact, this morning I was working on that, and their lead time is 25 months. That's assuming we can get a purchase order or at least a handshake in place by June 30th. If that doesn't happen, then our spot in the queue moves back. Then it could be 30 months, and that's a problem. We'd like to break ground in September. And when we break ground, that's not actually for the machine, that's actually just the starting the utility part of the project. But again, you guys know the winters here, we all know the winters here. It's better to break ground in September than it is in January, because that's impossible. So timing's incredibly important. So, you know, that's the key part of the project. We're looking at the $500 million investment, like I said, the employees. The other thing that's unique about this mill is we've taken a real hard look at it. We just don't want to build a machine that's going to last 10 or 15 years. We want to make it the most environmentally friendly mill in the United States. And we believe we have a plan to do that. So what's that mean in the area? That means we eliminate the coal-fired boiler. That goes away. This is going to be powered by 2 natural gas boilers. It also means working with Brown County and New Water to set up a reclaimed water system where we will have zero water discharge into the Fox River. That, we believe, is either the first or second system in the United States that has that. So we're pretty excited about that system. One of the reasons, I want to go back for a moment, though, one of the reasons we needed help with this project is because by building it here in Green Bay, it's very unique. If we would have built this somewhere else, in another state, or even another city, one of the things we're doing that's very unique is we're still going to continue to run our current mill. Okay, and we need to continue to run that current mill. Now, that wouldn't be so hard if we're building this mill somewhere else.
Right.
So what happens? One of the first things we do is we build the 2 new natural gas boilers. We shut down the coal-fired boilers, and we actually are putting in piping, the money that we're spending to power the old machine from those natural gas boilers. We wouldn't have to do that if we did that anywhere else.
Right.
And then once we get the new machine up and ready to go, then we shut down the old machine, and the natural gas obviously powers the new machine. And there's a 30-day window where one machine shuts down and the new one starts up. But that's additional cost that we're incurring as an example, let alone, obviously, you can see how tight the machine is on this piece of property. So I think that's about it. I want to talk a little bit about the environmental and the folks. Again, I just want to thank the states. Mark Hogan and WEDC has certainly stepped up and been good to work with. The city of Green Bay has been great to work with, and Brown County as well.
Good.
So,
Excellent.
can I take any questions? I'm happy to take any questions you have.
The output in your new mill goes up, correct?
Yeah, I didn't even touch on that. Thanks for mentioning that. So right now, we produce roughly 660 tons a day. When you're looking at a paper mill, you always talk in terms of tons per day. The new machine will be more than double that. It will be something in the neighborhood of 1,400 to 1,500 tons a day. So what's that mean? Well, what that means is, all from a supply chain point of view, it's great for the area because companies like CTS and others that we do a lot of business with, their business is going to go up quite a bit as well. The other thing I didn't mention is, I mentioned this last night to Brown County, we prepared a list of how many suppliers we do business with in the area. And I didn't prepare it specifically for Green Bay, but I will tell you for Brown County, there's 734 suppliers that Green Bay Packaging does business with. I can't guarantee that every one of those suppliers are going to get more business, but they're more than likely, some of them are going to get quite a bit more, right?
Right.
So that's a big part of the project as well.
And the output of this mill is for what use?
Okay,
The
yeah,
paper
so,
you create.
yeah, so great question. When you're in the business, you don't think, you know, I just automatically.
It's
know.
obvious from
So,
you.
yeah, right. So these are paper, so this is a big paper machine, right? So we make, it's called liner board and medium. Let's just call it container board. So that's a type of paper. And that paper is then sold to our box plants and to other box plants. So that paper is, they call it corrugated, is sold to a box plant that then ultimately makes corrugated boxes.
Okay.
Okay.
So the customers of this are not just Green Bay Packaging corrugated?
No, there'll be
It's
other
other
customers as
as well,
well.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And and the end customers of our box plants are, you know, they're across the country, so, who we sell to, so.
So ultimately Amazon's involved here?
Indirectly. Yeah.
When you talk about the supply chain, once you produce this, does this go out on semis or does it go on boats, semis through the
Not
channel?
boats,
No
but it
boats.
goes on trucks and rail.
Trucks and
Yeah,
rail,
trucks and
okay.
rail. Yeah, good question. So, yeah, yes.
So that big part down there is the old mill?
Yeah, they just changed.
I'm sorry, I changed it so you could also see the box plant on there.
Do you want me to go
Yeah.
back?
So I rotated.
Listen, I gotta get my order reference here. So this is our Green Bay Packaging box plant, okay? So this is Quincy Street.
Okay.
This is Radisson, our headquarters over here. So that's our box plant, which is even part of this project. We're actually going to be expanding that as well.
Okay.
Which that's one of the things we don't talk much about. By Green Bay Packaging investing in this, we're going to have to become a bigger player in Wisconsin. So there's more likely going to be more further investment. But we're not willing to commit to that yet, but it's much more likely when we got this type of equipment. The old mill is located in the back here. It's not on this rendering, okay? But all this land up front, we own as well. Does that help you?
That was my question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, because the old mill's gonna get taken away then, right?
Eventually.
Eventually.
Eventually, but you're talking 3 years down the road, it will. So that'll be the
Okay.
last thing we do.
So it's not on that picture?
Yeah, we don't, and we
Got it.
probably should have a.
I just-
It's roughly in the back, kind of where
It's a very good
it'll
question.
turn into parking.
It's like over here, so,
Okay.
yeah, it's a good question. Yeah.
And you'll literally be able to run the old mill right up until you turn the new one
It's
on.
an engineering feat, but that is the plan, yes, yeah. I'll probably lose some sleep those days, and so will a lot of other people, but yeah, that is the plan, yeah. There'll be a 30-day window, you shut down the old mill, but every single employee will keep their job because they're being trained on this equipment at the same time. We're gonna need to build inventory during, going up to that time frame. But to actually, even once the new mill's all ready to go, there's still about a 15 to 20-day window before you can even start it up, just to get everything ready. So there'll be about a month window where the old mill shuts down.
Tell us a little bit about the paper machine itself. Where is it made? What the successes it had? Foolproof?
Well, I gotta be cautious on that. I'll tell you as much as I can, but we haven't decided what supplier.
Oh,
it is.
okay, that's right.
But it's down to 2 suppliers. Nothing's foolproof, but it's proven technology,
Okay.
yes. Yeah,
Good.
there is a mill built in Niagara Falls. It's called Green Pack Mill. And while this machine won't be identical to that machine, it's very similar technology.
Okay.
So yeah, we aren't the first ones to have this
All
type
right,
of machine.
good.
We're one of the first ones to have this type of water system, but we're a little bit, we're able to do that because new water's right there. But that's actually not the most cost-effective way to do it. The easiest way to do it is to use river water, honestly. But we don't believe from an environmental point of view that's the right way long-term.
Okay.
And we think not only is it right for the environment, but we also think long-term it's a good business decision to do what's right for the environment. And that goes back, to George Kress. I mean, it really does. Wade predates, and even Will would say, it predates him, predates even his dad. George, when he started this company, he really believed in doing what's right for the environment.
Great.
And it's kind of in our culture. So. Other questions?
So are you using recycled content from the new mill?
Yeah, this is a great question. This is a 100% recycled mill, okay? And so is our current one. Our current one's 100% recycled as well. So what does that mean? Well, that means the fiber that we supply to this mill it's not made of trees. It's made of old boxes, actually. They call it OCC, old corrugated containers. What's unique about this new mill, it's going to be able to run primarily old corrugated containers, but it's also going to be able to run mixed waste, which is better for the environment because there's not a lot of homes for mixed waste. Mixed waste is, paper and just paper like that, and graphic paper, and all sorts of different paper. And different types of products that you recycle.
Most
So
of that comes in
would
by
be
truck?
unique.
Most
Most of that will come in by truck,
Okay.
yep. Mhm. Yeah, good question. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did, thank you. And I thought your current mill operated on a zero water release, wastewater release.
It does, but it's a very inefficient system. If we try to duplicate, well, I really couldn't duplicate that with this type of production. And that mill's also one of the few. You're right, that was great. In the early 90s, we actually,
Yeah.
President Bush gave us, that's called a closed loop system.
Yeah.
This one's a little bit different, where we're actually using reclaimed water, which is even more environmentally friendly. So, yeah, good
Very
question.
I just wanted to touch on the construction impact as well.
Yeah, great, thanks Dylan, yeah. So what's gonna happen is then, once we get everyone's approval and we sign the purchase order for the mill, then the road work begins, right? And then we break ground in September. So we've contracted, for our general contractors, Myron Construction out of Neenah. And Tim Kippenhan, who has my job at Myron, we've been starting to map out how many folks are gonna be on site. And it's gonna be anywhere from 450 to probably 800 construction workers on site at any one time for 2.5 years. So imagine the coordination, but also imagine the economic impact on that. Very significant. Some of those folks, of course, will be from the valley and from here, but some of them will be from out of town, and flying in and spending weeks and weeks and weeks. And I will tell you, whoever we end up buying the paper machine from, part of our requirement is that they have their team, wherever they're from, live in Green Bay for the next 2 to 2.5 years. So there's some benefits there as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Sure.
Could you speak, I see the plan calls for us to vacate Quincy and Radisson.
Yeah.
Could you kind of maybe just speak to the need for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that would happen after the Webster construction. Jim know a lot more about that than I do. That would happen, I think, the end of 19. So I'm going to step you back to the whole supply chain impact. So when we're going to more than double the output 2.5 times, there's going to be a lot of trucks, okay? And I'll be honest, I was very nervous about that, about the whole traffic impact. So we need better access and frankly, less pedestrian traffic on those streets. So we asked, as part of this project, to vacate both Radisson and part of Quincy. I can't see that on here. I think it's vacated
Yeah, I
up
can-
Weezy Street. You might
Yep.
know this better than I do, Kevin.
Yep,
so.
so we're looking at this chunk of Radisson Street. So here's Quincy. So Radisson Street, basically from Leo Frigo, their corporate headquarters is right here. So this
Yep.
block in here, packaging owns some parcels over on this side to allow the truck traffic in here, and then coordinating with the intersection here at Webster to come in and out. And then a chunk of Quincy Street, between Wees Street and kind of the end of the plant, again, for allowing some of that train and truck traffic to come across. Part of our thoughts were to look at the vacation. You may not see a lot of the change in infrastructure. I think this was done down the road for either P&G or GP. Portion of the street where basically, look, they're taking responsibility, then they know the
Yep.
utilities and everything are under it, but it just allows them to operate more efficiently in terms of bringing trains and trucks through and not mixing in additional traffic.
It's also safer.
Right, and I think that's why the timing with, okay, reconstructing Webster, I know sometimes people use Quincy as a shortcut. Webster will be better able to handle that additional traffic, plus all the ped bike accommodations on Webster, gets people safely north and south.
Well, and selfishly, I'm one of those people that takes that shortcut.
I do too.
But because of that, though, I can speak to the fact that it is congested down there. So I have zero problems with it, I just wanted to better
That's a great
understand.
question, absolutely.
So, and then the other question that I have for you, what kind of impact, if any, would you see on the local water utility?
I see no negative impact whatsoever,
Okay.
maybe a positive impact, frankly. So
Sure.
we may end up losing less water at the end of the day because of the water system that we're putting in place.
Okay.
So,
But no real projections or?
not off the top of my head. I'm
And that's
really
okay.
cautious, that's a great question, but I'm real cautious about answering that in detail when I don't know every specific about
Yeah.
it. But I am confident we will use less water.
Okay.
I think just an off conversation with Director Clark about just in terms of capacity for the city to handle and the utility to handle
No.
additional, there's lots of capacity.
Yes.
So in terms of if they would foresee a need or have a need, they definitely have the ability to handle that, both in terms of, what's coming in, but also the pipelines and the infrastructure.
Yep.
That's right. We'll keep it open, Brian, in case we have more questions. Going back to Kevin and the mayor.
All right. Thank you.
So just to highlight, just in terms of what's in the development agreement, in terms of the incentive, was brought up the discussion about the street vacation. That was looked at prior to the end of next year, 2019, because we want to make sure Webster's done to vacate those portions of the street, just to allow for that expansion, and again, not to cross over with some of the traffic between trucks, trains, and others. The other piece is a property transfer. The city owns some property up where you see the Bay Beach Water Tower. It's probably just off this map, right up here. There's that water tower that has the Bay
Yep.
Beach logo on it. The city has a few acres there, along with a few storage buildings, about 25,000 square feet worth of storage. We will vacate that property and move those storage facilities to alternative locations in order for packaging to use that for them, working on moving some
Sure.
pieces around to allow them to have that. So we'll convey that for $1. And just, listed in there just in terms of the contribution, there's a cost to us, but I think through some other projects, we're able to you know, find alternative facilities in other tax increment districts. So again, trying to keep this off the levy. And then the other part is the PAYGO reimbursement. You know, we have proposed an incentive of creating a new tax increment district that encompasses these properties out there. With that, there's about $18 million worth of value right now. We anticipate the new project, when done, will come in somewhere around $64, $65 million. That is one of the things that we don't control necessarily. That's done through the state. The state does industrial assessment. But, you know, Brian and his team have worked with the state to kind of get their ballpark, you know, around some numbers. Again, you know, things can change with state legislation, but they feel pretty comfortable, you know, that it will settle somewhere around there or that range. So with that, the new increment, which would be about $46, $47 million of those new taxes, 90%, will be rebated back to the developer for the duration of that tax increment district. The portion that's going into the TID, you know, we feel like that pool can be used, you know, down the road if there's some other improvements that we need to do in that district or enhancements to Webster or some other small things. But we feel that again, you know, packaging is the one creating the investment to move forward and to help, you know, really with a lot of the things that we as a city strongly believe in terms of, you know, the environmental work that's being done there, the sustainable technology that they're putting in there. In addition, you know, outside of the property tax stuff, to look at, you know, the jobs and the real impact in terms of the supply chain that they have in the community. And so feel that's a very appropriate offer for moving forward. So that's in terms of what's proposed in the development agreement here today, along with some timelines. You know, I know, Mayor, you worked on this project. You want to say some things in terms of, you know, where we've been and just what this means in terms of, you know, investment for the city.
And then thanks, Kevin and Brian. Yeah, we've been at this for some time. When we were invited to a meeting with Will and Brian, and they told us that they were looking at a significant expansion, we just made the commitment when we got back to City Hall that it was going to be in Green Bay.
How long ago was that?
6, 8.
It's cold.
I think it was February.
Okay, could have been April then. Okay.
And we worked on some things, and what we came up with, and I really want you to know this, redevelopment commissioners, this is very fair. It's a good deal for the city. We have done riskier deals where we have actually went and borrowed the money up front and then lent it to the customer. And then there's bonding costs and there's risk. You're holding a lot more debt. There's been other situations where on the PAYGO, they've received 100% of the new taxes that were generated. Here, we're retaining some for the district. And I don't want Brian to rethink like I could have got a better deal. But this piece of property that we're giving to them, that's going to come on the tax rolls. And that is not a great place for our storage. I mean, we need a higher quality storage facility for our evidence storage. And you know, we get break-ins there. I'm surprised we haven't lost a case yet. So we're going to relocate that. We have 2 sites where, you know, the chief has been through this. Both chiefs, fire chief, and Steve, Director Grenier, Director Namick has been part of this. This has been at a very high level, but they asked us for confidentiality. I don't want anybody feeling like I wish I would have known earlier. I mean, we'll bring you in as soon as we can, but just very confident in this. And I think we're looking at, you know, the jobs and the business side. And I know you know this, but as I said last night at this meeting, there's no harm in repeating what a generous company Green Bay Packaging has been to Green Bay. I mean, the philanthropy, we wouldn't have a Crest Center, wouldn't have a Children's Museum, wouldn't have an art garage. You know, some of these things you see at St. Norbert, they wouldn't be there. And we chase small businesses. I get that, and I just came back from a seminar on a small business, and you know, the $400,000 business, and what can we do to get them capital. You know what their number one goal is? Revenue. They want money, and here, just these new jobs is going to generate another $15 million of payroll, and these people will be going to the restaurants and getting pictures framed and buying things. So this is working on a, you know, pardon the pun, this checks a lot of boxes, this project, and
I'm okay with you referring to boxes.
Okay, all right, we'll use that. But this doesn't, and, you know, Kevin and I had, you know, some of the nights and, you know, talking about something, you think they're gonna say okay to this? I mean, this was just a
Yeah,
good deal.
right, right,
And I
right.
think it's really fair, and the more you listen to them, the more you listen to us, and the more you understand the partnership that we're forming going forward, this is a good day for packaging and for the city of
Without
Green
doubt.
Bay.
Without doubt.
And many of the other companies you're gonna work with,
It was
because if you're gonna
700.
break ground now, you're creating jobs for, how many people out there, construction organizations?
Absolutely.
Questions? Any questions or comments?
Your floor is still open.
This floor is still open.
Move to return to regular order.
Okay,
Second?
Barb and Matt, move to
Nice job.
regular order. All in favor, saying aye?
Aye.
We are back to regular order business. Any questions or comments in regard to this development agreement?
No, I think I'd probably just leave it, Gary, as, you guys are moving fast.
We are.
On a project of this scale, and that's incredibly impressive. And I would just assume help them keep moving fast, and make the motion. And let me just see how it's stated here, right? Right to approve the motion on the possible action on the development agreement for Green Bay Packaging for the project as described.
Seconded.
Okay, Matt has made the first motion, Barb second, and we will vote. We have no Lisa on there.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Unanimous, I'm sure.
Unanimous.
Very good, thank you, congratulations.
Congratulations, and thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
It really is an exciting project. Excellent.
Just for the record, then, this will go to the city council on Tuesday. We're going to set up the agenda right now, because this wasn't on there, so well, I guess you have a few more? housekeeping?
Yeah, we have
Some
a few
more
other
items.
things, yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, this is gonna go out
Okay.
today to the council, and then Tuesday.
Great job, Brian. Good luck. Excellent.
All right, okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank
have a
you.
good weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, as good as it gets right there. All right, number 2, consideration of possible action on disposition of 901 Irvington Street, tax parcel 6-469 to adjacent property owner. Kevin, great.
Well,
How we do,
Hi.
Kevin?
you all get a chance to read the report?
I looked at it.
Any questions? It's pretty straightforward. We bought a blighted property, tore it down, and we have an interested commercial owner who is willing to buy the property. It's pretty straight as far as our costs compared to the purchase price. So,
Anyway, bottom line, you feel it's a good deal.
yeah, so.
Move to approve?
Second?
Barb and Kathy, motion to approve. Maybe we should vote. Somewhere, I got off to somewhere else here. Are you leaving the meeting? Oh, I'm not. Oh, here we go.
So you're on ESPN.
All right.
Motion is approved.
Unanimous?
Unanimous.
All right, unanimous. Thanks, Kevin, great job. Thank you. Number 3, consideration with possible action on the request to enter into agreement to complete a safe routes for non-drivers and bicycle/pedestrian plan for Green Bay Area Public School District in TUI Design Group, CP 18-02. Who's got that?
All right, I have that one. Stephanie Hummel has been working on this through our planning department. Pull up something else. Look, I know there's been a lot of discussion throughout the community and through council in terms of pedestrian, bicycle access throughout the community. The Green Bay Area School District, about a year ago, went through a proposal or application process to receive Safe Routes to School funding. It's a federal program. Federal government, DOT, provides funding to local school districts to go through both for planning and infrastructure grants. The money goes to the state, and then the state does the applications. The Green Bay Area Schools was lucky enough to receive a pretty substantial grant to go through and do a Safe Routes plan. Because Green Bay School District, I mean, all of their schools are within the city and then covering portions of Alloway and Bellevue, brought us together to figure out, okay, how could we use this grant to potentially like leverage some additional things, for our city or make something comprehensive. Again, given some parallel discussions about improving pedestrian bicycle safety in the city. So I think what we looked at is an opportunity to help partner with them and in short, for about $30,000 of contribution from the city, we can get a citywide ped and bike plan. Which a lot of things, a lot of times these plans cost probably upwards of $100,000 plus. But what we see is, look, there's an opportunity that, through the school district, planning for schools, and especially when you talk about, enabling kids to be able to walk to their elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. Once you do that, you're already covering a pretty big chunk of the city.
Right.
And if you can make it safe for somebody, 18 and under to walk, or 16 and under to walk, you're pretty much going to make it safe for anybody to walk. So one of the things that we would like to do, and then the school district put out a request for proposals, received several applications, and came down to Tool Design Group as the one. They're based out of Madison, and they've done a number of these plans to move forward with them. The request before you today is to authorize the $30,000 for the city to participate. We have some unrestricted block grant money that we'd like to use for this. It'll be taken in 4 chunks over the next year and a half, basically as progress happens on this plan. So, there's some initial meetings, some draft documents that'll be done, and then the final payment will come when the final plan is presented. Again, but that's about a year and a half out. It's a pretty intensive process, but what we feel when this is all said and done, this would be a great document for the city. In terms of involvement, we've been involved from Community and Economic Development. Department of Public Works has also been involved. Dave Hansen, the county, their representatives, and then along with the school district, all also been involved as well. So with that, to do our part and participate, we need approval from the RDA to authorize that funding to move forward with the contract.
Is this new block grant money, or is it money that was some?
It's unrestricted, it's old payback money and
Oh,
it's
payback
sitting in
money.
the coffers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the whole 30,000 is funded through the block grant?
Yep, yes, the unrestricted monies.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that I have been on Traffic Bike and Ped for the last 2 years, and also in the Greater Green Bay Active Community Alliance Coalition, and we've been talking about this and hoping for this and working toward this, and I'm very, very excited to see this on the agenda. I'd like to make the motion to approve this, because I've been very involved with it, so
Excellent,
I move to
excellent.
approve.
I'll second.
Barb, made motion, second by Matt. So vote. Very good, thank you. Okay, agenda item number 4. Consideration with possible action request to use $15,000 of CDBG public service funding to subsidize the public arts coordinator position for work in the CDBG eligible areas.
All right, that's me. So we currently have a public arts coordinator that works 20 hours a week, and it's funded entirely off of dollars that the Public Arts Commission received through the excess stadium
Okay.
tax money. We are looking at doing some additional beautification work in our block grant areas. We've allocated some funding for that. What I'd like to do is, for a couple of reasons. One, to make this position closer to a full-time position, more of a stable position. I'd like to increase it to 30 hours a week and provide some benefits. The addition of the $15,000 of the block grant dollars in public service will allow that to happen with this position, and then we can also work in our LMI neighborhoods to do some more artwork. The other thing I want to tell you is that the Public Arts Commission is in the middle of a campaign right now, a fundraising campaign for public arts.
Sure.
Their goal is to make this a full-time position, so my hopes is that this is a 1-year, $15,000 allocation, they raise their dollars, and then that position will be funded entirely through the Public Arts Commission.
Could you just tell us a little more what the person does?
Well, right now, they are coordinating what we do. It's a brand-new position, so this is new money that we've come in. So
Okay.
we have the Rotating Arts Program, which the pads have just been placed around the city. There's a grant application that artists can apply for
Oh.
different
Right,
incentives
right,
through the
right.
city.
I've seen that.
And just works with us kind of cooperatively now on some development projects that we're working on internally in-house. So, and staffs, the Public Arts Commission, it's a monthly meeting, does the agendas, does all the paperwork for that, staffs
Okay.
and minutes, so.
Gotcha. And this is new CDBG money or the money?
This would be public service dollars that we have.
Okay.
Currently.
Okay.
$2017.
Okay, 217, got it. Okay, that's why I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the 15,000 of CDBG funding to subsidize the public arts coordinator position.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Melanie, second by Barb. We shall vote. Sure, you can retain the person you have right now and just add more hours, okay, just curious. Okay.
Unanimously approved.
All right. Number 5, consideration of possible action to amend commercial facade improvement grant and demolition grant policies and procedures. I've seen that.
All right, this would be me. I'm sure you've probably all had an opportunity to look through the report, so I'll be brief in my overview. We have our facade and demolition grant programs that are CDBG funded. We have some money to get out the door, so we'd like to take a look at updating our policies and procedures to open these funds up to more areas of the community. We would like to extend it to all LMI areas in the community, and we'd like to remove the cap.
Oh.
Right now, we have a $5,000 cap on our facade grant and $10,000 on the demo. We think if we were to remove that cap and look at projects on a case-by-case basis with the board's approval, we'd be probably able to get the money out the door a little bit faster and probably make this a little bit more worthwhile for developers or business owners to go after these funds.
What's the total dollars available?
I'm sorry?
What's the total dollars available?
Right now, we've got a little over 114,000 for this year to spend.
In the document that I was reading, it talks about commercial. Does that also include nonprofits?
Right now, the policy is just for commercial for-profit entities.
And the 114 is going to carry you all year? Or you hope
We need to spend 114, is the goal by November.
It hasn't been going, right?
Right.
That's the
Right.
whole
Okay.
reason.
The
that
goal
it's
is to
been
get it out the
sitting.
door.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is-
Yes.
All right.
And I think we,
Yeah.
teams looked at, I guess being a little more aggressive in terms of marketing and maybe going to businesses or going to places, especially in areas that we're working, and offering to partner with some opportunities that may be out there.
Yeah, it's not meant to be sitting in the bank.
No, and,
Right.
we go to bid meetings regularly, we meet with businesses regularly and share information about these programs. We have new marketing materials for these programs, and we're still having a little bit of trouble getting the money out the door. So I think changing these policies
Good.
will probably help with that.
Yeah, and the marketing material is excellent.
All right, your motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the amendments to the policies and procedures of the commercial facade improvement and demolition grant program to remove the current funding caps and expand the eligible project areas.
Excellent, excellent, Matt.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Matt and second by Melody. We shall vote. Must have worded that.
Right on.
You're right. Okay. All right. We got a lot of unanimous votes today, which is a good thing. Everybody, I'm assuming that, right? Okay, I figured that. All right.
And switch the screen.
That's when.
Informational, financial report and checklist. I had some questions, but she answered before the meeting. I mean, my questions anyway. Did anybody else have any questions in regard to the, well, one thing I was gonna mention, a couple of meetings ago, you also had the balances.
Yeah, they're right here.
Oh,
They
okay.
didn't get put in the packet.
Okay, that's it.
Thanks very
Yeah,
much.
I like that. I think that's always nice to have.
They normally get put in the packet.
Okay. I was looking for them and I said, where? Excellent job. So anyway, you're just informational. Is there any questions in regards to the financial report or check register?
Move to receive and place on file.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor, sing with saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Or unless you just vote.
Yeah, we don't need a vote on that,
I
I
don't
don't
think we
believe.
vote,
No,
no.
matter of fact, these are strictly informational, but that's great. Kevin, you've been busy, very busy.
Love that.
Yeah.
Always are, that's great.
So, yeah, up to a good start this summer, besides slowing down projects. Obviously, these things in terms of the shipyard and packaging, kind of leading with that. I think from an administrative perspective, one of the things I know we're talking with tax increment districts and then TIF incentives and reporting. We'll be, Finance Director Ellen Becker and I have been working on preparing materials to submit for part of our annual report. I think one of the things that was discussed last year is how can we take that state report, which is very bureaucratic, and maybe make it into something a little more useful in terms of projections and getting ideas for future development in those areas. So we'll be working on that to bring that to RDA, potentially looking at a special meeting to do some of that, because then we'll also, for some new tax increment districts, we'll probably use RDA as the authority for doing that again.
Right.
We already have clearance from council for Whitney School and Shipyard, but we'll probably look for one for packaging to do that, in terms of making some of these effective 1/1 of 18. So we'll be doing some of those again later on this summer, but just I think it's important to kind of bring up to date where those tax increment districts
Yes.
are before we talk about, okay, what can we do,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
the fiscal health of all those moving forward.
Definitely, I'm looking forward to that report.
Yes. We may look, I know we've been busy, but perhaps one more special meeting in June. I know a project we had looked at with TWG Development at the rail yard was dependent initially on some WIDA tax credits. I think I noted in an earlier meeting, they did not receive those credits. They missed the scoring by literally like 2 points. So with that, they're exploring and have been exploring some alternative financial models. I think they have a proposal that they may be willing to come back with. Again, time is tight in terms of some of the application processes for WIDA. So we're reviewing their proposal right now internally, and if we feel this is something to bring forward, we may need to have another meeting, just get some approvals for moving that. Again, continuing on with a lot of things that are going on in the rail yard, this was what we felt a good mix in terms of adding some affordable housing. And so they're just a heads up that we may have another special meeting on this, so we'll keep the team busy this summer.
Very busy.
Another meeting I think would be quite interesting, if sometime Deanna could give us a report on bonding. Where we've been, where we at, where we're going. I'm sure the council would be quite interested in that as well. And maybe they're aware of it, I'm certainly not.
Yeah,
It's
so
another big graph, we're showing the whole bonding.
Yep, and I think we went through a little bit of that exercise when taking out the bond request for this year, in terms of showing, what's coming off, what's being paid, the distribution between levy supported, tax increment supported, or other supported.
Yeah, I missed that.
So I could talk, well, I think, part of it was done at council, not through here,
Okay,
but through
that's why I
finance
missed it.
committee.
That's why I missed it.
Yep.
All right,
But I could add a few
I think it'd be
points
very
and things.
interesting, I think it'd be very great.
Sure.
I think that would be, because as I'm sitting here approving this, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so how much is already bonded for and what isn't?
It was a great presentation, so give it again here.
Mhm.
Pretty good.
And that, happy, any questions?
No, I think it's just a great compliment to you guys on this whole packaging project, the shipyard, and the whole team. You guys did a dynamite job. This is so critical, so very, very important. I mean, can you imagine that the project wasn't done here? I mean, I can't even imagine.
I'll just say, when we went to the first meeting, and it's them and representatives from like the state, the county, everybody around the table, kind of thinking like, okay, this meeting is gonna go one of two ways. It could end really badly, or it could be saying, look, we're gonna give this a shot, and, like we said, I think we had a good team effort here to bring something to make sure that we could retain that here, and make sure they want to do their investment here.
Congratulations, you guys. The same thing with the Hotel Norton. You guys stuck in there, hung in there, didn't give up. It looked a little depressing at some points in time, but you guys stuck together, and I think it's gonna be great.
Home stretch.
Yes. Okay, anything else from anybody? Next meeting is July 10th at 1:30.
Or
Motion.
sooner.
Yeah, it's only maybe 10.
That's what's on the calendar right now.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Barb,
All right, I like the
I'll
motion.
make, I will second that.
Okay, there.
Barb and Matt, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Good work, guys.
Thanks for your support.